because I wanted to, as I said before, like the fact that Joe does this on, I think one, maybe two monitors is insane to me because there's so much. There's so much to do. There's the Zoom, there's the OBS, there's the pictures. It's a lot, but he does a great job of it. And he did that. It was a cool clip thing in between. But yeah.
He's really executed the rebrand to stellar degree in recent times too. So we got to give him a shout out there. We are live though tonight to talk Deadpool and Wolverine. That is where we are headed for today. We've got a big show in store, Deadpool and Wolverine. And then we're going to touch on this article regarding a producer of Madam Web talking about the movie's failure. So we have really two opposite ends of the spectrum here as far as superhero movies are concerned. I'm excited to talk Deadpool and Wolverine because I think it doesn't leave you. It doesn't leave you without something to grab or with something to touch on. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to talk about this because I do think, unlike most superhero movies, this one does leave you with quite a bit to chew on. So I'll be interested in hearing your take on it as well. First things first, though, my friend, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing A-okay. I got the house to myself for 20 days. Chelsea's going on a big trip to Europe again.
Oh wow!
For effectively for work. So we got some meal prep cooking inbound. Cook once, eat like 6-7 times. Let's see what happens. I'll try not to burn the house down. But yeah, other than that, it's just a busy ass summer.
That it is. August is tomorrow, somehow, some way.
That's insane.
Hotter than hell out there right now.
It's humid. That's the thing. It's humid. I've been to Vegas, and every time, it's very hot, very warm when the sun's out, of course. But even at like 100 degrees, it's not the worst thing in the world. When you've been in Chicago during these humid summers, because the dry heat. What's that Midwest saying? It's the humidity that kills you.
It's the humidity that kills you. That's for sure. Yeah, and it is dreadful to just be out there today. It didn't get as hot. Like over the weekend, they were talking about how it was supposed to be hotter out here in Eastern Iowa. We were supposed to have temps in like real temperatures in the mid 90s. And we haven't cracked that out here yet. We're at like 88 today.
88. I think it got up to like 90 here.
Yeah, I was surprised because and not to go into a whole meteorology discussion, but having a friend who's a meteorologist.
Yeah, that was last time. That was Twisters.
He told me that he told me years ago. He said the two hardest things for meteorologists to predict and why these are the two things they're most often wrong on, he said, are tornadoes and blizzards. Yep. He said those are the two hardest things to predict.
What a surprise.
He said heat is very easy to predict. Mm-hmm. He said heat's very easy to predict because of jet streams and patterns and data. He's like, those are very easy to predict. He said polar vortexes are pretty easy to predict. But like he said, like snowfall totals and tornadic activity, difficult as hell to predict, even with all the technology. So I was kind of surprised that like a week ago, like I'm serious, this weekend, I thought we were going to get temperatures like 98. That's what they were talking.
live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, it is Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening, wherever you may be, however you may be watching or listening to us. Greatly appreciate it today. Big show today, loaded show. First off, we got the whole gang back together. Giuseppe, Joe Viso, is back after a little week sabbatical there, and it's a good thing he is because we got a really fun movie to talk about today in M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. These men right here, Dominic Guanzon and Joe Viso, better thank the host of this program for calling an audible 2 weeks ago. We almost reviewed Harold and the Purple Crayon until I wised up and got smarter and thought, you know what? Nobody gives a rat's ass about Harold and the Purple Crayon except for me. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to subject these guys to a movie I'm already wholly suspect of, and a movie that I still held out a morsel for hope. This was probably the movie, not to divulge into a Harold and Purple Crayon rant. You can read that on stevepulaski.com. That'll be a fun one at the end of the year when we do our worst movies of the year. I'm just going to let you know. That'll be a fun monologue for me. But I'm going to say this. Never have... There's every like 7 years or so, 5, 6, 7 years, there's a movie that comes out that's way too late, like it missed the window completely for when it was supposed to be released.
Slender Man.
Yeah, Slender Man's a good one, but I like that movie. That was honestly, okay. I'm one of the lone defenders of that movie. One of the first that comes to mind is Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, which I really enjoyed. But that movie, if Pilkey's dad didn't get sick and he didn't take that hiatus, that movie probably would have come out in like 2002 when it was supposed to. There was that movie. I held out optimism for it. It turned out to be great. There was, and this one, I'm going to blow your guys' mind right here. You guys forgot this even exists. Maybe didn't even know it existed. Playmobil, the movie. Held out some optimism.
God, that's right.
Held out some optimism for Playmobil, the movie. That I think still has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it does. It's one of the few.
You know, that one, I saw that in an empty fucking theater on a Friday, I think maybe a Friday afternoon in college. It was one of the saddest showings of my life.
You saw it in an empty theater, but you were added to a list of fucking people that the FBI watched.
I know, right? Like that was one of the handful of times when I got my ticket and the person at the concessions was like, I forgot we had that.
If there's anything I miss about old Sleepless, where we used to do 2-3 movies a night, it is when we would start off with like the big movie release and then work our way down to like the small release and then have it go up to the ticket counter and be like, yes, one movie please for whatever the hell was coming out that week, and they'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and then apologies about my camera over here. I think my webcam's going. So if I disappear, my audio should still be intact. But I held out hope for Harold and the Purple Crayon, and God, am I a jag-off. That really should have been the review right there. As a big fan of the book and a big fan of the TV series on HBO Family, throwback. Yeah, that was a sobering disappointment. Made for a fun theater experience. Catherine and I had some good hushed commentary between us. It was nothing if not lively, and it was over in less than 90 minutes. So you gotta at least praise a bad movie for being short. But we're not reviewing that today. We're reviewing M. Night's Trap. We're going to talk that movie. It's been a summer of the Shyamalan dynasty. We'll talk more about that too in a few minutes. And then we're also going to touch briefly on, I really kind of just want to bring this up because I think there's some confusion with myself included at first regarding Warner Brothers Discovery shutting down Boomerang. I think there's a little bit of confusion with that I'd like to dispel, and I'd also like to give a plug to a brand new network that is taking Boomerang's place swiftly. I can't wait to see the ratings when they come out with that, though, and I'll talk more about that at the end. Obviously, you guys going to give some thoughts on that too. First things first. Normally ask how you guys are doing and things like that, but since we have a loaded show, I wanted to give Joe the floor to talk Deadpool and Wolverine. He was not here for our review last week, so I want him to say some thoughts on it, really because I know the Marvel series is close to his heart. He's the most knowledgeable of the three of us here, so I want to give you the floor to start with Deadpool and Wolverine, Joe.
Now, I know like these guys last week talked about some of the things that like were shown in that movie, such as certain characters that popped up. I'm going to say it again. I will be talking about that as well. It's been 2 weeks. If you haven't seen the movie still and you're like, I still don't want no spoilers, just walk away for 5 minutes and then come right back. But real quick, I will try to keep this as short as possible. For me, this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, that is, because I know we're talking about traps, so let me make that clear. Deadpool and Wolverine was basically what I wanted this movie to be. It was just fun. It was funny. And it was basically like what I could ask for in a summer blockbuster, especially a Deadpool blockbuster. It's not my favorite Deadpool. I still think 2 is still my favorite. I think it has the best story of the 3. And I think that, like, you know, just the look of that movie too is just really slick and cool looking. I really think the director, when it comes to that, when, you know, he makes stuff like Fall Guy, Bullet Train, and all these other cool looking films, and also like the first John Wick. But with Deadpool and Wolverine, I gotta say, like, it's while 2's my favorite, 3 actually might be the funniest for me. There were times I was having tears come out of my eyes from laughing. It's not necessarily all from Deadpool as well. It's from a lot of other people that pop up in this movie. One of them being Channing Tatum as Gambit, who had me dying on the floor, man, in the theater with his accent. Because as a big X-Men fan growing up, watching the Saturday morning cartoon, and even as a 28-year-old man, I'm watching X-Men 97 on Disney Plus because, damn it, it's some of the best animation Disney Plus has added for original-based programming. Gambit's always been a character I always thought was really cool, but like we'll never see the light of day with him ever again. We did see in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but it was cool to see not only Channing Tatum just do the accent, the Cajun accent so well, but also just have so much fun with the role and be hilarious with it, and just everybody bouncing off of him. Like, one of my favorite jokes in the movie is, "Who's your dialect coach?" The Minions. Like, that, that had me going. As for the leads, I mean, Ryan, this is what Channing Tatum is for Gambit. Like, you know, he was trying to get that thing going for years and cared about the role. Ryan, Deadpool, is basically the same thing for him. This is his baby. This is basically what kicked his career to new heights. It's basically what got his aviation gin started. It's what made him the, you know, speaking ambassador of Cricket Mobile, or Cricket Wireless, whatever the hell it's called. It's the movie that basically saved his career and everything. So of course, like, you know, he's back to form as always as Deadpool and everything. Hugh Jackman as Logan, Wolverine. Look, man, the best performance for me still from him as this character is Logan, and it's always going to be Logan. Nothing's ever going to top that. But it is cool to see that, like, this movie is probably my second or third favorite performance of his. Not even dramatic-wise, just, like, he has some really funny line readings, or he's actually got some really good dramatic ones. I think it's just also, like, you know, the character finally got to play off of Deadpool, which is something fans has always wanted for years and everything. And it's just always great to watch someone as cold shoulder, keeps to himself, very hard as Wolverine, and then you have someone as ADHD as Deadpool, just trying to get him to talk and say something to him. All the cameos are great. I normally nowadays too with the Marvel movies, the last time I really screamed and like cheered in the theater was Endgame. Not even with Spider-Man No Way Home, and like it's because like I went to that movie expecting those guys to show up, but I was still excited and I did clap with people. I screamed "yo" at the top. Now this doesn't add to my rating. I'm just talking about excitement, but I screamed "yo" at the top of my lungs when Wesley Snipes walked in, and I was blown away. That's like. And this leads into my thing. That was the first Marvel movie I watched as a kid with my uncles. So it holds a dear place in my heart. As well as all the other cameos throughout the movies, throughout this movie, and what they acknowledge as well, which is the 20th Century Fox era. That era, I mean, look, as much of a roller coaster as it was, where we had peaks and dives in terms of quality, it was what I had as a kid. It's the best thing I had. It was a lot of fun, and it was basically my cinematic universe growing up with everything I read and watched as a little kid. So it was nice to see that this movie paid some respect to it and had a lot of fun and gave a lot of people a happy ending, as the tagline of the movie is. It's not all perfect. I think the third act kind of falls apart, where the villain kind of gets crowbarred back into being a villain after like they establish she's not the villain anymore. And it was just kind of like, okay. And then I also think a lot of stuff in the third act kind of gets a little washy, and the whole thing about the anchor and a lot of plot details, I was just kind of like, This is just to move the plot along, and I'm fine with that because at least it's a comedy and I'm laughing really hard. But when I got to the last act, it became a lot more noticeable. Overall, though, very fun time at the theater. I had a great time watching this. A lot of people have been telling me it's the blockbuster of the year for them, and I can totally see why. Is it for me? No, that's still Furiosa. But with Deadpool and Wolverine, it's definitely one that I'll come back to and maybe go catch it again in theaters. If not, I will definitely own it and watch it at home sometime. It is 3 out of 4 stars for me.
Very good review, my friend. Dom and I chatted about it last week on the show, as you know, and we had a good discussion on it. And I opined, we were talking about it, and like, you know, I think we talked about the Gambit movie getting canceled or stuck in limbo and development hell on Sleepless on the radio show back in the day. And it was one of those things that's like out of sight, out of mind. And then he popped up and it took me a minute to remember. And I'm like, that's right. The guy who made Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Rupert Wyatt, was supposed to direct the Gambit movie. Yeah. And Dom and I kind of went back and forth and whatever. And I'm like, be careful what you wish for. You might get it. I don't know if I want this character for 2.5 hours, Doctor Strange looking ass. But but at the same time, though, I was like, you know, he's probably one of the superhero like side characters I've enjoyed the most since King Shark. Yeah, a couple of years ago.
I remember you said that in the review last week. I was laughing about it because he definitely is.
And I also made the joke too that I think they canceled the movie because Tatum couldn't hold an accent. Because he was flighty a little bit with Gambit's eclectic dialogue.
He was, and I've seen so many people be like, he did so good. I'm like, no, he did, but like everybody's like, I really want the movie now. I'm like, I don't know if it will work for a whole thing, but as a side character, like Gambit is most of the time in X-Men, he's perfect.
Before we start our review of M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, Dom, it's been 13 minutes. I know you're itching to talk. What's going on with Dom? You, man?
No, I'm good. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I am here in Wicker Park live on the scene, and it is a I'm just glad that I got to hear Joe's review of the thing, because funny enough, I gave it a higher rating.
I know, I was surprised. I was like, good for Dom, man.
I was just enjoying it. It was a good love letter to the Fox thing, and I will say, just overall on the whole Deadpool situation. I always say, you know, at the very least, because like that character, that whole series could have been the most insufferable thing imaginable.
It really could have.
Much like their Comic-Con cosplay counterparts, where they're just trying to improv things, and it's like, don't do that. Stop it. Please stop it. And yeah, the thing about Deadpool is that with those 3 movies now, they actually managed to develop a character. They actually managed to have him grounded. Unlike, did you ever play the video game with?
Yes, I did, with Nolan North. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember too much of the story, but it was like that was just immediate balls to the wall, like annoying as shit. And it kind of worked.
It burns you out about halfway through.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, and it's like that is the Deadpool we could have gotten, and thank God we didn't. So.
I always thought these movies, and I'll let you talk, I swear to God, but I always thought these movies had a good balance of that comedy that Deadpool's known for, but a lot of heart to them, especially that second movie.
If you sit down and watch it, there is significantly more heart to it than you would think based off of, you know, what if you don't watch the movies and watch them. So I am low-key Deadpool movie stan in that regard. So yeah. And yes, as I said in the review, completely biased rating because I grew up on those films. And again, if your like earliest superhero movie memories was Iron Man forward, good for you, legitimately, because you didn't have to deal with like a decade plus of just complete bullshit, give or take.
Yeah.
And that's why the MCU feels so good in comparison. Like you should individualize each review and take them on their merit because they are dropping in quality. But there is a reason why people felt so good about the MCU when it really took off.
This was a good, like, I'm glad this was the only Marvel movie we got this year because I was like, this is a good reset button. This really is. Like, it was like,
how many have they done now?
Yeah.
How many resets? But in any case, we should move on.
No, wise words. Yeah. I mean, it reminds you too how the pre-Iron Man the pre-Iron Man era of Marvel was akin to like how video game movies, the reputation they have, with the varying quality and inconsistencies. Great review, Joe. We will move on and we'll talk M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, brand new movie that for some reason was not screened for critics. Mystifyingly so. I still don't understand why Warner did that. Yeah, there were no reviews of Trap by Thursday night. The critics had to go see it like everybody else on Thursday night, which is weird because it's the first M. Night movie not to be screened for critics. And I will remind you, M. Night Shyamalan has directed Lady in the Water, The Happening, The Last Airbender, and a litany of other movies too, After Earth. Like, it's so... Warner did this movie a disservice, I think, not screening it for critics. It did pretty well opening weekend. It did all right. It did a little bit lower than some of the tracking was concerned. I don't know, because this is the first movie he has done for Warner Brothers, which is noteworthy. This is the first movie he's done for Warner Brothers, at least in like 10 years. So I wonder if they worried that generally his movies get like, and it's the Rotten Tomatoes rating of this movie is perfect. It's 54%, which is about what his movies get, because of the fact that he is famously divisive. We don't need to go through his catalog. M. Night is one of the most divisive American filmmakers.
But that's what makes him so exciting to watch.
That's exactly right. Because no matter how many times he fucking burns you, you want to go and see his movies. That's what I think makes him a tried and true American, a quality American filmmaker, even though he's made at least 3 or 4 movies I'd put on my worst list of the year. And I think he's just that fascinating. I think he's a genuinely good-hearted person too. He's I've said it before on the show, he's one of the top 5 directors I would love to get a beer with.
Yeah.
I think he's a genuine human being, and I highly recommend, if you've ever seen him give any lectures at colleges or in anything in particular, he's incredibly well-spoken, thoughtful, intellectual guy. I would love the opportunity to talk to Shyamalan. But his new movie, Trap, is what I call the summer of the Shyamalan dynasty. Because if you remember, his daughter, Ishana Night Shyamalan, released her directorial debut, The Watchers, earlier this year. That's all I'm going to say about that movie. We'll talk about it again at the end of the year. But this movie stars I think he's got 3 daughters. This movie stars his eldest daughter, Suleika. Suleika Shyamalan is an R&B singer known as Suleika. And she did the soundtrack for this movie. She stars as Lady Raven. She's the centerpiece of this concert that Trap mostly takes place at, where Josh Hartnett, who plays Cooper, and his daughter Ariel Donahue, who's Riley, they go and attend this concert in Philadelphia. And essentially what this concert is it's one big police trap. It's a sting operation in so many words, because Cooper is a serial killer. And he realizes how secure this building is, and everybody getting sort of vetted and sort of searched and everything as they're leaving the convention center, or as they're entering or exiting and whatnot. So he's essentially trying to figure out how to leave this place without getting searched and without getting his identity revealed as this killer known as the Butcher. Excellent trailer for this movie. Sold a lot of people, including myself. And you know what? I think this is a quality Shyamalan thriller. I think this is a quality Shyamalan thriller. I don't think it's a spoiler to say. I will just say this. It's a pretty surface level thriller. You keep waiting, and this is the interesting thing, but the problem with Shyamalan, and I don't hold it against the movies, but he's become known as the filmmaker that loves to insinuate a twist ending that turns the whole logic of the movie and the whole narrative upside down. His last 2 movies, he has not done that. Knock at the Cabin did not have a twist ending. Granted, that was based off a book. If anything, the book had a sadder ending. He made it happier. He made it a lot happier. Knock at the Cabin. This is now his second movie in a row that does not have a big, large twist. Something is revealed towards the end of the movie that kind of explains that you understand why there was a trap in the first place, but there's no grand reveal of anything. Catherine and I were opining whether or not this was going to be connected to the Unbreakable franchise in some way.
Dude, I had the same thought.
Single title. Yeah, single title, you know, kind of had those eerie vibes, kind of has a similar color palette to Unbreakable. I was wondering that throughout. But this is a pretty top tier concept. And I know we'll talk about it. I want somebody else to talk besides me, but I just want to say too, I'm glad Josh Hartnett's back in movies. You know, he took a little bit of a break there for a while. He came back with Oppenheimer last year in a smaller role, and this is his first villain he's ever played. And and oh, and Sin City, he was the villain. Catherine corrects me on that.
Oh, okay.
But he is at least a very in a very like sociopathic role that is atypical for him. And I think that he owns this movie and takes a command on this movie, even as it goes maybe a little bit off the rails in the third act. I'll throw it over to you, Dom. Your thoughts on Trap?
Yeah, every film goer that's been around for a while has a relationship with M. Night Shyamalan, as you've insinuated, Steve. And I like to think that holds true, especially for the three of us. And I haven't even seen most of his works. And again, I'm not going to reiterate the whole thing, but yeah, Sixth Sense and Signs come swinging out of the gate. The hottest thing, hell yeah. And then Happening, Lady in the Water, Airbender, sure. And then his kind of comeback, quote unquote, after Earth, coming with Split, Glass, Old. I think it's been a little haphazard. Old especially. That felt like it was really supposed to be the comeback because I think right, Split and Glass are part of those are like combined movies. I didn't watch those movies. It was like part of a shared universe thing. So Old was really the independent comeback, and that just didn't do it for a lot of people, including all three of us, if I remember correctly. I didn't see Knock at the Cabin, but I wish I had seen Knock at the Cabin instead of Old. So when it comes to Trap, I just gotta say, we're so back, baby. We are so back. It's like the Kamala Harris campaign. It's like the Democratic presidential campaign. We are so effing back with this movie. I am all for it. I am a weirdly enough Josh Hartnett stan, because he with his all American good boy, hot boy looks. And yeah, man, there's a lot of good things going on in this movie. It feels really disciplined for Shyamalan, weirdly enough, while he's still having fun with it at the same time. And this is the Shyamalan I hope we get to see going forward. I really do because and there's still some quirks, both good and bad, which we will definitely get to, and in that third act, which I'm sure we're going to dissect a little bit more. But overall, this is I just feel like Shyamalan needs to start doing, I guess, murder mysteries, which I don't know if he's done much of them, kind of, sort of, throughout his career. But I'm like, I'm down for it. Let's effing go. And this isn't really much of a mystery because it kind of tells you front and center who the culprit is. But still, it's an exciting movie. There's a shtick, right? That he is a shtick director with all of his stories that he does, original stories, right? And with Trap, the shtick is so clear, but it's so damn good. It's what drew me in. I was looking forward to it. I was low key hyped for this movie, and it mostly delivered. Mostly because I was very tempered with it. So you know what? Josh Hartnett playing a serial killer absolutely stole the show for me. It Whatever dialogue he may be putting out at the end in particular, whatever, but for the most part, he absolutely stole the show. So this cast is working really well together. It's all gelling well together, and kudos to the daughter as well. Uh, oh my gosh, Ariel Donahue, shout out to her. Allison Pill makes a good way and a good dialogue and a good exchange. And yeah, for the most part, I'm just really happy. And Kid Cudi, hell yeah. Hell yeah, Kid Cudi. Get it, Kid Cudi. Makes the most out of those scant minutes that you get on film. So yeah, those are my general impressions. A little messy there in the third act, but man, does it escalate in a way that got me. I actually got visibly hyped in during the movie when a character it's like they're going into the third act here, and then character suggests something to really that's kind of like the twist ending, give or take.
Yeah.
In this
they
thing
play
where
with they basically play with the idea of who's really trapped, and it's like,
exactly.
Oh, okay.
And then when that happens, I'm like, dude, I leaned in. I leaned forward. I was Zaslav leaned forward on this shit. I'm like, hell yeah.
I was reclined while watching the movie. When that happened, I literally sat up with the recliner like, interesting. Where is this going?
Joe, go ahead and take it.
It's like when you turn the radio down to focus on your driving more. It's kind of that moment too, because turning down the radio makes you see better. Joe, you can give your thoughts and then take us into break if you like.
Yeah, how much time we got here? 5 minutes. Okay, all right, yeah. I'll give like a very short thing. Look, man, this summer it's been better than others, and I was texting Steve about this over the weekend. From The Fall Guy, Kingdom Planet of the Apes, Furiosa, Hitman on Netflix, Bad Boys for Life, A Quiet Place, Inside Out 2, Twisters and Deadpool and Wolverine, even the smaller stuff like Long Legs. It's just been a summer of stuff that I've been like, damn, this has been really good. Even something like Maxine. I wasn't crazy about it, but I've talked to people who have really enjoyed it. And then, in terms of quality, it was a well-made movie. I just wasn't so hot on it like everybody. It's more of a divide, I would say, and everything. I could say the same about Trap. It's definitely up there in terms of summer movies this year. Now, I know, hold on, we just got done mentioning Harold and the Purple Crayon, and we got Borderlands this week. So, it hit a perfect summer, but but for the most part, it's been a very solid one. Trap is definitely, it's definitely one of the better M. Night Shyamalan movies. It's not one of my favorites of his. It's not going to be so high if I had to rank these movies. I mean, and this is a thing I hate about ranking and whatnot, thinking back to all of his other movies. But in terms of, like, where this guy went at a point of his life where it was like, man, movie after movie, it's not looking good. It's great to have him as good as he is in this movie as a director. Not everything I think he does in this movie in terms of, like, dialogue or even direction really works. But that doesn't mean I wasn't enjoying this movie. There was a certain different style of filmmaking than I'm used to seeing with Shyamalan here. It's almost like he was directing the movie with like tongue-in-cheek attitude. Like he knew, like, I'm going to reveal the twist early. It's him. He's the killer. And I'm just going to have fun with this premise of him being stuck at a Taylor Swift-esque concert. And like, let's just play it from there. Not everything, I mean, like I said, not everything works. I mean, he really does some stuff in here. It's like, he's literally teleporting, or how did no one see him do that? There's a scene that involves him sneaking into a concession stand and putting bottles in a fryer, and it's just like, how does he do it? We don't know. We don't see him do it. We just see the bottles go in, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Were you getting Equalizer vibes? You know what I'm talking about?
A little, yeah, and that is also why, I mean, like, when Steve said the Unbreakable thing, it was going to be I legitimately thought, is this guy supernatural in some sort of way? Does he, like, what supernatural ability does he have, similar to Bruce Willis or McAvoy or Jackson's character, Mr. Glass? And especially when you had the psychiatrist helping with the FBI, I was like, this is really giving me Glass, Unbreakable, all those things kind of vibes. Split. I'm like, I really felt like it was going to be that. But maybe it was originally, and then maybe Shyamalan pulled that twist out. Who knows? But back to the movie itself. Yeah, man, this movie really works because he has that attitude directing it. And I think Josh Hartnett kept that, like, mindset the whole way through while performing. He is so much fun to watch on screen here, man. There's a scene where a trapdoor opens to the right of him at the concert, revealing, like, another artist. And I actually was just chuckling at the thought of him just looking at the trapdoor, looking back at his daughter, thinking, how the hell am I going to spin this one to my daughter that we should go down there real quick? And kudos to his daughter, Riley, played by Ariel Donahue. She was probably the most sane M. Night Shyamalan character I've seen in years. Everything she said was reasonable. How she reacted was reasonable. That doesn't mean... There are other characters in this movie that have the M. Night Shyamalan-isms to them. But Riley was actually genuinely, like, just a normal person. And it felt really good to see that in a movie like this, because it actually just helped even Josh Hartnett's performance and that whole character feel a little bit more grounded, but a lot more fun too, because it's just like, man, he genuinely cares about his daughter. He wants his daughter to have a good time. But this will be literally his daughter's worst day ever if he ruins this. With the concert and already how she's feeling about her friends in her class and the distance she's feeling between them. We're at less than 1 minute, so I'm going to pass it back to Steve.
Yeah, this movie leaves you with a lot to chew on. When we come back, we'll talk maybe about some of the performances as well and some of the things this movie does really effectively too. I think the entrapping feeling of this movie is also really fun. And also the other thing about this movie too is it does something similar to another fantastic movie that was released just a couple of weeks ago. I will touch on that when we come back from break here in just a couple of minutes. In the meantime, this is Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. Enjoy a little clip show during our Zoom Workplace sponsored intermission. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with more Sleepless with Steve. Dive into it though. Furiosa Mad Max Saga. It is a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road came out back in 2015. And I think us film nerds remember that very well. And it's funny too, because it was like I had sort of the same mindset I remember going into that movie as I did Top Gun Maverick. I had not watched the Mad Max movies prior, but I watched the first three in the week leading up to Fury Road coming out in the theaters. And the first one I liked enough. The second one really captivated me. And then the third one was like a Return of the Jedi costume play. I wasn't blown away by the trilogy, though, I have to admit. I wasn't blown away by the original trilogy. Maybe watching it again down the road or whenever The Wasteland comes out, that might be something I do, but I'm not really sure on that either. But I remember going into Mad Max Fury Road with like kind of like how I approach many blockbusters. I was talking to Catherine about this when we went to go see this. I said, like, it should tell you something that this is a blockbuster that I am friggin' stoked for, because that does not happen very often with me. Even as a critic, I approach these almost with a sense of obligation. Outside of like Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, some of the series that I really like and connect with. But when I saw Fury Road, I had this like, I hope it's good. I obviously hope every movie I watch is good. But I did not know what I was in for. And the marketing, if you remember, did a really good job of Top Gun Maverick, because I called Top Gun Maverick when I reviewed it. I said, this is probably the singular best blockbuster made since Fury Road. And I approached them with like the same sense of apathy. Even Top Gun Maverick, I wasn't like jumping for joy to see. I was more like, I hope this is good. I hope this isn't like a sequel nonsense. And then about an hour into this, I remember thinking like, this might be 4 stars. This is great. And Mad Max Fury Road blew me away. Catherine hadn't seen it. We watched it again this week, this last week, technically. And she loved it too. And I think it holds up beautifully. I don't think it is a stretch of the imagination to say that is the singular best action movie of the last decade. You might argue The Raid, Redemption. You might argue some movies and whatnot, but I don't think I would trust a list that didn't have it in the top 5. I think that it is top to bottom a stellar movie. And one of my more controversial opinions, you mentioned Film Twitter hot takes earlier. One of my more controversial opinions, I think Fury Road is so fucking good top to bottom, I think it almost invalidates the previous movies. I think Fury Road is the movie, like, how many movies can you say got it perfect on the 4th try? And it felt like Miller had the budget, had the backing, had the cast, had the studio support, had the effects team, had everything to make the movie he always wanted to make.
Yeah.
And I think it's so good that you can skip the first 3 and enjoy it as the start of the series. Yeah. That's sort of my long-winded monologue to get into Furiosa, Mad Max Saga. Again, this is the prequel, 7-8 years in the making. And I think right now, too, George Miller's always been a top-of-the-line filmmaker, but I think right now he is truly in a class all of his own. He has made now 2 stellar action movies in the last decade, in the last 10 years, rather, in Fury Road and Furiosa. Furiosa is the prequel to Fury Road, as I've said before. It stars Anya Taylor-Joy, who is probably in about half the movie, because the bulk of the first half of the movie focuses on Furiosa when she's even younger. Yeah. Played by Aaliyah Brown. Aaliyah Brown, I think is how you say her name. And basically, this chronicles what led Furiosa to committing the events of Fury Road. It chronicles her childhood. It chronicles her adolescence. It chronicles her multi-year-long pursuit of vengeance against Dr. Dementis, played by Chris Hemsworth. And most of the cast returns for this movie in supporting roles from Fury Road. The only notable absence, rather, obviously Tom Hardy. There's a brief and blink and you miss it cameo by Max, who's played actually by
the stunt double.
The stunt double, Jacob Tamuri. I was looking for his name. The stunt
Tom
double.
Hardy stunt double.
Yes. Blink and you miss it cameo, but it's there. The only other cast member who's missing is Hugh Keys-Byrne, who passed away in 2020. He played the original Immortan Joe. But I think Lackley Holm, who steps in for him, I think he does just fine. I don't think he's as built or as buff as the original Immortan Joe, but he's great. Yeah. I still think he does a great job at what he is.
Let me just say, he's so good. I didn't realize the actor did pass away. You're telling me this now. I thought that was still that 90-year-old man, just like, good for him, man. Still doing these movies.
Oh, you didn't realize Hugh Keys-Byrne died. Yeah, he died in 2020. I forgot until I was looking through the cast for my review, and I was like, oh, yeah, he did die.
Shit,
I remember he died during COVID. It was a hectic time in the country, so it was an easy death to miss, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm just going to come out and say right now, this is another white knuckle knockout punch of a movie. Inevitably, you're going to compare it to something as perfect as Fury Road, and it's not quite as good. But even the complaints I have about it in the grand scheme of the movie are minute enough that I don't think they truly matter. I think they're just sort of components. The biggest complaint I have, I'll get into later, that I think does bring the movie down a notch. And this, I don't know if anybody really, I haven't read many reviews of this, so I don't know if people share my thought on that. But I'll quit sucking up all the oxygen, let you get a word in edgewise, Joe. Your general thoughts on Furiosa.
So, to give you my history, because we got more time now to go into this with, just us two and everything. I saw Fury Road opening weekend and everything.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve after our Zoom Workplace sponsored intermission. Good to be with you today, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Fun show in store today. We are going to keep it going right now. We are talking about Trap, the new M. Night Shyamalan movie. You know what this movie actually has in common with another movie we just reviewed a couple of weeks ago? Like Twisters, this was shot on 35 millimeter. This was another movie shot on 35 millimeter. Found that out after I watched it when I was working on my review. So I thought that was pretty cool. They wanted to actually film this movie in a 4:3 aspect ratio. So, for example, I call that the Lighthouse, the Ghost Story, the A24 aspect ratio. That's what the A in A24 stands for. That they wanted to shoot it in 4:3 because they thought that it would add to the claustrophobic element of like a crowded concert and things like that.
I think it would too, honestly.
But the problem was that due to the budget and due to and it was a conversation between McDeeprom, the cinematographer, and Shyamalan, there was complications with that didn't result in them doing it. So they agreed to scrap that plan. I was wondering,
does it cost more to shoot less?
Yeah, it's a weird.
I'm kidding.
You could also make the joke if you wanted to go the nepotistic route. I also think Shyamalan might have realized that you couldn't get the full scope of Suleika's stage presence, in a 4:3 aspect ratio. Look, there's been a lot of the talk on the nepotistic angle of this thing, and it is a pretty brazen attempt at nepotism at that. But you know what? You know why I don't hate it? Because Suleika can actually sing. I was impressed with her. I think that she has a lot going for her. Now, the one thing that kind of sucks, I get why they did it, but it kind of sucks, is that you don't get her stage presence a ton. Most of her stage business is shot from the audience, is shot from Cooper's perspective. So you're getting a lot of like the view on video screens and cell phone screens and things like that.
I like that.
I thought it was an interesting touch. I like the song I like the most of hers, and I need to listen to the Lady Raven soundtrack because she did the soundtrack of the movie. The song I like the most is the one she sings with Riley on stage. I love that song. That song, I said this should be a friggin' single. That was really good. And I think when it's Suleika's turn to act and she kind of takes the lead role of the movie for 15 to 20 minutes, I don't think she disappoints either. I think she's actually pretty, she's pretty convincing. Do you disagree?
No, I'm glad to hear you guys thought that because I walked out with my friends going, I think for like, acting wise, I thought she did solid. M. Night's dialogue is not the easiest to regurgitate, all right? Like
No.
Harrison Ford said, you could say the shit, George. It just does, like, whatever the hell the line quote is. You could write the shit, George. You just can't say it. I was like, I think she did solid. Both of my friends went, no, dude, she was like the worst actress in the movie. And I just thought to myself, did I see something different? I'm like, and they still liked the movie. They just thought she sucked. And I was like, I don't think so. I'm like, I thought she did fine for what she was given.
Technically, maybe she's the worst, but it's not that bad at all. It's fine. Like her time to shine is when she's locked in that room effectively.
Yeah.
And it's like that was pretty solid. That was all right.
She's kind of got a little Daniel Kaluuya in her, and I always said one of Daniel Kaluuya. Yeah, she's got like reactive eyes, and like
she does, yes.
And that's just a genetic trait. You can't coach that. Like part of what makes Kaluuya a great actor, and he can deliver lines with the best of them. But part of what makes Kaluuya the great actor that he is his eyes, and the fact that's why he can play characters like he does in Nope that don't have a ton of dialogue but are like say a lot when they're doing things like riding a horse. That's why that scene in Get Out is so iconic. The sunken place scene is because of his eyes. Suleika's got a similar thing going where she's got the face down where she doesn't even have to say anything. She can kind of convey mood through that. And like I said, that's not something you can coach. That's just something you're born with. That's just a genetic thing. But I was impressed with her thoroughly. As a performer. It's Josh Hartnett's movie. At the end of the day, I think he is so menacing. He's cagey. He's cunning. I think that he does some really great work here. Now, the only thing, and every Shyamalan movie, and I've learned this over the years, every Shyamalan movie, and I can't really come up with a better word. Every Shyamalan movie has some fuckery to it. Like there's something that like it just inexplicably doesn't make sense. Here's my thing, and without giving anything away, I'm not going to question the logic or security protocols. Like I can suspend disbelief for certain things. I'm not going to question the minutia. I'm going to question something really simple. Okay, it's about like within the last 35 minutes that they end up. The movie transports us from the concert. Okay.
Yeah.
Was the fucking concert at 2:00 in the afternoon?
Thank you. Yes.
like they're coming out and it's like it's not even sunset yet, and I'm like, most of it, like a show like this is going to be held at 7.
It turns night quick too.
Like there's no opening act or nothing like that. Like I think the one thing the movie really should have stayed at the entire thing in the concert. Like that's one of probably my biggest gripe with the thing is it should have been. I think maybe for the last 10 minutes, I think too much time they're spent outside of the concert, and it's not even dark yet.
See, I want to agree with you, but I really do like how it does flip the movie on its head when they go to the second location. And I was like, oh, dude, this is really sick. This is a cool idea for this movie now. It's almost like that was the twist. Like, no, this is actually trapped now. Like, it's like, oh, wow, now, this is actually really cool. I will say where it goes from there and it has like 3 different endings, I'm kind of like, okay, all right, come on, man. Like, let's get this going already. Like, wrap it up now. That part I could understand, but I really did like them leaving the concert and where they went to. It was like, oh, damn, okay, this is really good.
Joe, I'm on your wavelength, dude. When Josh Hartnett really starts turning into the Equalizer, and I say the Equalizer because in those movies with Denzel Washington, he's in no danger at all.
Yeah.
He may get in dangerous situations, but he's in complete control of the situation at all times. You never fear for everyone else's life in whatever scene he's in. There is no tension in the Equalizer movies.
No.
And it was kind of getting that way with Josh Hartnett, with his character towards the end where this plot goes. I'm like, okay, how slippery is he going to be? Like in the stadium, it makes sense. He has the cover in the way that, like, I tweeted this out where it's like, dude, congrats to M. Night Shyamalan for doing what no other director was able to do, and that was to make a good Hitman movie, a good
Thank you.
Agent 47
Yes.
Hitman movie.
Yes.
This, I was like, holy shit, this is some Agent 47 shit right here that the other movies just weren't able to do. Because in the other movies, and admittedly the games do get this way, but in the other movies, it's just him in the suit just shooting people up the whole time.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe
no,
that is
especially the most recent game where it really does push you to get creative. There were times I was watching this and I was like, dude, this is actually really, because it's like, this actually did. I know we just had the movie like in April or March where you follow like the Jason Voorhees character of a slasher movie. What the hell is that movie called? Nature. I forgot. But it was really cool to like actually get a movie from the perspective of the serial killer. And they're actually doing things like that we see in those games, like you're saying, Dom, but just like, like other side things that like, we see in blockbuster movies where they're trying to find the serial killer. And he's always one step ahead.
Oil. Yeah, the fryer oil scene where he sets a trap there, like that's some Hitman shit.
Yeah, that really is. Yeah.
And I didn't want to cut off your train of thought. You were thinking of In a Violent Nature.
Thank you. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So in that sense, I'm like, when it was you're right, Steve. When it was in the stadium, that's when Hartnett's character was able to really shine as a menacing, slippery killer. Like, damn, this is so cool. What's the logic here? How's he able to do this? That's the fun part. And I did like the twist. I just didn't like how they did it.
Yeah.
I just didn't like how they did it because there's too much exposition, like last minute exposition. I mentioned earlier that scene with Allison Pill. It's a well shot scene. It's a good acted scene, but goddamn, like what are they talking about? I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. And it's like, is this one of those things where it's like, oh, you'll get it on your fifth rewatch? Don't do that.
And then someone takes off their shirt and you're just like, why is he taking off his shirt? Like, this is actually kind of more distracting now. Like, I get it. You look good for your age, but like, come on, man.
It kind of
I didn't mind it.
It kind of has it kind of has multiple ending syndrome.
It does, yeah.
It has that, like that's one of the issues with it, is it kind of has a little bit of multiple ending syndrome. It's not as tight maybe once it leaves the concert. I think that's kind of more what I was getting at. But yeah. I gotta steal a line from a critic that I've started reading and listening to over the last year, and I really have respect for him. Go follow him on Letterboxd. His name is Brett Arnold. Hosts a podcast called Roger and Me, which is an ode to Roger Ebert. And he's he's one of the critics I think is the closest to Roger Ebert since Roger Ebert passed away. I have high praise for Brett Arnold. He also writes some of the slyest Letterboxd reviews that kind of remind me of Ebert's tone. Just a little plug for Brett Arnold there. What he called this was, he said he called this like back you into a corner cinema. And I like that phrasing of it, because that's what this movie sort of metaphorically does to the audience, is it backs you in the corner like Cooper is at the concert too. And if you're somebody too, Catherine and I attend a lot of concerts. We attend, with the radio station and stuff. We attend like upwards of 20 a year, and
it's accurate.
A lot of them outdoors. So it's not the same, but we were at one outdoors. Actually, we were with the Creed concert and the Lainey Wilson concert a couple of weeks ago at the Great Jones County Fair. That's about 20,000 plus outside and like fairgrounds. And I am not really claustrophobic in large spaces. Small space is a different story, but I do get unnerved when I'm in a large crowd, and in this social climate, you have to like think about like an escape plan. God forbid something goes down, and I'm not in an outdoor context. I'm not talking weather either. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Like you think about shit like that, and there is a thing, like if you attend like sporting events and things like that, like where there's just a crowd of people around you, and it's going to be madness getting out under normal circumstances. There's an element to that in this movie that is really strong when you're in the amphitheater section, especially when it comes to like when he has to go to the floor seats and then get back up to the concourse and doing all this walking around and this winding on this multi-level arena and things like that. I don't know if we want to segue to closing thoughts here. I guess I'll start with that just briefly here, since kind of led to it there. But no, I was thoroughly impressed with this movie. I think Warner made a big fucking mistake not screening this movie for critics. I don't know why they didn't. I think it really could have only helped this movie. This is Shyamalan's 16th movie, if you're keeping track. And I still love how his talents continue to evolve. I remember when we reviewed Old, I said, one of the things I lamented about Shyamalan and his reputation, I said, he's become the twist ending guy, and he's been that for so long. I said the downside to that is that you've now made viewers aware that it's only a matter of time before the rug is going to be pulled out from under you. And the thing about, and it was no better example than Old, where when the twist finally was revealed, I was like, you know what? I would have rather not known that, because you didn't have enough time to go through the whole thematic relevance of what you just tried to convey with that whole thing. I would have rather this been a beach that made you age. That's all I needed. I did not need a big pharma commentary, a half-assed one at that. Like that was like one of the moments where it's like the eureka moments where it's like, I would have rather not known. And I'm somebody who loves to know a lot of weird shit and likes to know intricate, meaningless details of things. I would rather emerge from a movie like this with just a handful of minor nitpicks as opposed to a barrage of skeptical assertions, thanks to an underdeveloped third act and a crappy twist. I think this has potential. This narrative has potential to go further for Shyamalan, and I'm interested. The way this movie ends suggests there's going to be more, or maybe this is his new Unbreakable. Maybe with Bruce Willis's retirement, he's not going to do any more with the Unbreakable series, and maybe this is the start of another interconnected Shyamalan universe or something like that. I would not mind that. I mean, he's had so many peaks and valleys that it's hard to say he's back. And his last movie was good, so that would even be an irrelevant point to make and an accurate point to make. This is 3 out of 4 stars for me. I think this is a very fun time at the movies. I think it's a nice late summer surprise. And I think that it's just a crafty little thriller. And I think that the acting is strong throughout. The writing is pretty consistently good. The setting is unique. He called this in an interview. He said he wanted to make Silence of the Lambs at a Taylor Swift concert. And I think for the most part, on that general basis alone, I think he really succeeded. And he showed his talented daughter. He gave his talented daughter a platform too that I think she deserved. I don't think like she's a hack. I think she's definitely privileged, but I don't think she's a hack. I think she's actually got some talent, and it wouldn't surprise me if she takes off a little bit in her own music career. So it's 3 out of 4 for me. We'll go Joe, then Dom with final thoughts on Trap.
Like I said, there's a different energy to the direction of this film that I'm used to seeing with Shyamalan. I said he had a more tongue-in-cheek energy about it than his past films. He's really enjoying playing around with this concept. And if his new direction now is, rather than waiting for a twist at the end, I'll give it to you up front, and I'm just going to play the hell out of this concept like he did with this and Knock at the Cabin, then I'm all for it, man. This doesn't mean that this movie doesn't have his Shyamalan-isms. It does. And there's some notable and frustrating parts that I kind of was just like rolling my eyes at. I'm like, all right, come on, man. Like, you're better than this. Like, you're getting so much better as a filmmaker since you've come back with like, something like The Visit and there on forward. The difference here, though, that like these Shyamalan-isms aren't like bringing the movie down is, of course, the energy he's bringing along with Josh Hartnett. They're having the time of their life making this movie. You feel it while you're watching the movie, and you're seeing it happen on screen. It's a lot of creative stuff they choose to do in terms of a performance, in terms of the concept itself and how it's shot and directed. It's a fun watch you'll probably have some gripes about the logic of the situation if you really want to get down and dirty with it, as well as like some of the third act, like we called, like, 3 endings, multiple ending syndrome. Overall, this is a good time, and I really had I had a good amount of fun with this, and it's definitely something this summer that, like, hey, you saw these big blockbusters and everything, Twister, Quiet Place, whatever. If you're looking for something more scaled back, this will be a perfect one to go see. For me, it's also 3 out of 4 stars.
Wow. Yeah, for me, I think, you heard me earlier, right? We're so back with this man, Shyamalan. He's all in. So, frankly, I think I have to give this 4 out of 4 Shyamalans. This is a 4 out of 4 Shyamalan movie. Baby, I am all in on this man. I am all in on this man. And I can't
There's
wait to see
more
what he does
faces
next.
popping up every time you
What?
move, dude. Like now there's Zoe Deschanel.
Who? That's Allison Pill.
Oh, that's Allison Pill. My bad.
No, this is a 2.5 out of 4 star movie for me. Just because it does sour what happens, particularly with Allison Pill's character, and she does a fine job acting perfectly, with what little she had to do. It really just like, what was that? What was that exchange? What were these multiple endings? Getting to the same thing. It's like, this is not the clever thing was him sneaking around. It was not him being caught. Once he's made, that's the trick. Not the trick, but rather like the change. And it's like, that should have been handled differently. But this is a really strong 2.5 out of 4 stars, and I truly a Shyamalan 4 out of 4.
Yeah.
I'm not joking when I say that. Like, we're gonna ignore that movie. This is the comeback for him, and 100%.
Dom, have you seen Knock at the Cabin?
No, I really do. You know what? I have not. So for me, it is. But I think I should watch that.
No, I wasn't even talking about like the fact like he's back and everything, and like I wasn't even relating that. It's just that if you really did like this, I think you'll also really like what he did with Knock at the Cabin. I
like the trailer. It just escaped me.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It is worth doubling back on. Knock at the Cabin was very good. It came out so early last year that I think a lot of people, I think it got lost by the time summer came around and some people forgot about it. I think the most fascinating part of that movie is that, like, going into it, I knew it was based off a novel. I never read it, but I knew it was based off a novel. It was the first adaptation that Shyamalan ever did.
Yeah.
And I found that part very interesting. And then I also just found the fact that interesting about it too, that like when I went back and read about the ending of the book, Knock at the Cabin, which I won't reveal because you haven't seen it. The original ending of the book is dark, is really like sad. And I love a sad ending. The Mist has one of my all-time favorite endings, and that shows you how fucking deranged I am. And The Mist was like a happy ending for Stephen King in the book, and then a just miserable ending when Frank Darabont got a hold of it, where this was the opposite. Shyamalan made a very uplifting ending with a little bit of commentary to it on like the treatment of others in the world and things like that. So Knock at the Cabin is definitely an impressive movie. It also serves as probably my favorite. I think Dave Bautista's finest hour as an actor. Just
That's why I want to see it.
Outstanding in that movie.
I also think if Shyamalan's new route is I'm not going to have these big twist endings at the end. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'll play with the concept more. But give a leading performance, a great leading performance by like an actor that's kind of like on the rise again, either with a comeback or just rising up, like Batista was for Knock at the Cabin and Harnett is for this one. I'm so down if that's his like new like shtick for like the next like 5 years.
Well said. Great review. We'll segue into this. Not going to take a ton of time for it, but I think it's worth. There's a couple of things I'll mention on this. The reason I wanted to bring it up really in the first place too is Boomerang. Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers Discovery announced that they're shutting down the streaming platform Boomerang. Now, let me give some context to that. Is the fact that the network itself is not shutting down. The TV network, the cable network, Boomerang is not shutting down. This is the streaming service, Boomerang, that they launched in 2017 when it was looking like cable was going, by the wayside, and still kind of is. It's 7 years later. This is a streaming video on demand service, ad supported. It features over 5,000 titles from Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers and things like that. It was available as of 2017. It was available for $4.99 a month or $39.99 annually. So it wasn't very expensive at all, too. And it was a good little thing for people who like classic cartoons. This has kind of been a long time in the making, and I'm a little surprised when Warner Brothers Discovery got their hands on HBO and got and did the big merger with WB and Discovery. I'm surprised that this wasn't done sooner. Because this streaming platform had no fucking press whatsoever, had no ads for it. There was
This
no
is literally the
marketing.
first time I heard about it. Like,
I'm not surprised. I knew about it. I knew about it, but it wasn't, it's not at the forefront. It was just like, oh yeah, that exists, which is sad because Boomerang, if you remember, Boomerang was launched in our lifetime. When Cartoon Network first started, Cartoon Network aired a lot of old cartoons like the Flintstones, Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, and things like that. Well, then in the 90s, when they started doing their own original programming, like Ed, Edd and Eddy, Codename Kids Next Door, Totally Spies. I don't know if that was That might have been CW actually. But when they
No,
started,
that was well, at least it aired on Cartoon Network. That
it
I
aired on
remember.
I know it aired on Cartoon Network, but I think that might have been a CW show syndicated. Regardless, though, when they started making their own content and they started making their own shows, they stopped airing like Pink Panther and things like that, which is why they spun off Boomerang. And it was the age of niche cable TV when you could do that very easily. I remember Boomerang was a channel, I believe it was 297 on, I believe it was 297 on DirecTV. Cartoon Network was 296. I knew that. But anyway, so they're ending this, and I can tell you why though. Now I'm surprised, number one, that they didn't end it sooner. They're going to compartmentalize it into one of many things that makes Max now a bitch to load on Roku and everything. So they're going to make it its own streaming channel within Max, which again makes it just wonderful to load. I'm just going to say that much. That's one thing that's degraded about Max and since Discovery and Zaslav took it over. But the last thing I want to mention though, and we didn't talk about it on the air or on Sleepless yet, but I cannot say enough good about a brand new TV channel, a sub channel technically, that just launched, and it's MeTV Tunes. MeTV Tunes is a spinoff of MeTV, Memorable Entertainment Television. That network kind of took TV Land's job, and it started in Chicago. Now it's nationwide. MeTV Tunes, though, is a 24/7 cartoon TV channel that airs a ton of classic cartoons, a lot of which have not even been on TV in years. You've got the Flintstones, you got Tom and Jerry, you've got Wacky Races, you got a bunch of stuff that used to be in Boomerang's, regular repertoire. But you also have shows like The Mask, Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, Beetlejuice, Joe 98. There's a ton of weird stuff on the network that I love DVRing and going back to. It's one of the actually I have a TV in my studio at work. It's one of the things I have on sometimes, just because it's fun background TV. Cannot recommend MeTV Tunes if you're not in a market where you can get it off of your antenna. I highly recommend. One of my favorite streaming services is one, oddly enough, I don't talk about much on the show. One of my favorite streaming services is Friendly TV. And it's about, I think it's like $8.99 a month. I pay for it yearly, but I got it really only for MeTV because it's the only streaming service that has MeTV, and they have MeTV Tunes along with about 40 other channels. It's a lot of lifestyle channels like History Channel. It's a lot of good stuff though. If you're looking for an economical live TV alternative, Friendly TV is like $8.99 a month. You don't get any live sports or like local channels, but that's part of the reason it's so cheap. So I wanted to give MeTV Tunes a plug, which is really what I think was the coffin ceiling nail for Boomerang as a streaming service. Time will tell how long it lasts as a network. But I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that. Joe, I'll start with you if you want to add anything. I know we're pushing up against the end of the show here, forced out, but I want to give you the floor to comment anything on this.
I get to watch Tom and Jerry again, and I'm so excited for it. I love Tom and Jerry. I'm glad to see Scooby-Doo will be on there as well. It'll be great to watch some of the older Scooby-Doos, because as much as I love the newest iteration of it, the one I brought up during the Scoob one, Mystery Incorporated, which I thought was fantastic. I'd love to watch some of the retro stuff. If anything, too, man, I'm so excited for that Looney Tunes movie where it's Daffy and Porky are the main characters. So I'll just be having a ball just going through and watching Looney Tunes again.
I thought you were going to say Coyote versus Acme. I'm like, I got some bad news, dude.
that would suck if that's how I just found out about it. But no, I mean, it's great to see Max actually did a smart decision for once ever since Zaslav came back in, which was, hey, let's actually just bring Boomerang onto the platform itself. I'm really excited for that, and to see all these older cartoons and everything to be on there, as well as the more modern stuff like they labeled on here, something like Amazing World of Gumball, which is a really weird but fun show, and even movies like Lego Batman.
Hell yeah.
Anything to send us home, D?
Steve, I swear to God, you must work for MeTV as a publicist because you've talked about it so much in glowing praise. But I mean,
love
look,
it.
I was occasionally a TV Land person as well, and the Nick at Night certainly. But yeah, man, Boomerang. While it's just going off there, still an occasion. But I mean, that's how most of us got introduced to the old shows, truly.
Yeah.
Because they were just constantly being referenced, and I'm like, what the hell is a Snagglepuss? Okay, that's what it is. Cool. And that's where I discovered my hate for Hanna-Barbera. Where I'm like, oh, this is what they're talking about. It's not good, but I'm not going to go on my Hanna-Barbera rant again. I do miss those old bumpers, which you can see now on YouTube now. There's a bunch of YouTube channels that have like bumpers for like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney, etc. Which if you just want a smashed face full of nostalgia. So on Boomerang, it was those wind up toys of like all the old Hanna-Barbera characters, while it was like some loopy kind of song. It's like that brings me back. And yeah, for me, Boomerang honestly was the secondary channel for when there wasn't anything else on the other big three. So for me, I think it was Cartoon Network Channel 45, Nickelodeon Channel 46, and Disney Channel 47. I think back in the analog phase.
That sounds right because my friend, did you have Comcast?
I'm talking. I don't know. I'm talking like the 90s. I'm talking like 90s and early 2000s. I don't remember.
I want to say my buddy had Comcast growing up, and I want to say like Cartoon Network was 47.
Yeah,
I watched so much fucking TV. I remember like the channel numbers from cable networks I didn't even have.
Standard definition before, because it would be like channel 47 if you wanted standard definition, and then HD 247. You had a 2 at the front. I think that was DirecTV or TiVo. I don't know.
There was DirecTV. There was DirecTV and Xfinity later added. Xfinity's was in the thousands, I want to say.
Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, I'm not surprised by it. A bit of a bummer. This is one of those things where I'm not too upset about it. Right? Like this is the natural progression of time, I guess. And who the hell's watching TV these days anyway? They really should. I don't know. I swear, I still stand by my $1 million idea that Netflix should have like a designated channel on the service where like here's the spotlight of just a running show.
It's just like nice every once in a while to have something tell you what you're gonna watch. Not you being the decision maker. You tell me what to watch. It's just nice to have
for two reasons. Yes, I want to be told what to watch because I'm an indecisive little bitch. And two, it's that communal feeling of like, hey, we're all watching this together.
Yes.
This is on channel 1 or channel whatever.
As somebody who consumes a lot of linear television, more than the average person, especially our age, I still like I have Fubo TV and I have Friendly, and I watch those almost more than any streaming service.
And this idea can only work if you have 1, maybe up to 3 channels. If you start doing like 10, 100, then you're just back to square one. But if you just do 1, right? Or 2,
it's true.
Maybe 2 or 3. I think, man, Zaslav, you listen, man, make it happen. You can make it happen. You can sneak in Cody versus Acme at 2 a.m. on channel 3.
Imagine, you know how Adult Swim has those like April Fool's jokes?
Yeah, I was just thinking about
that. That would be insane.
Yeah,
that's literally the only time we'll watch
if that Jagoff gave any inclination that he was the least bit fun and creative, like that would be such a fun little thing, And I mean, like you can't really record, I mean, like on like YouTube TV, Fubo TV, you can DVR, but like if Netflix were to implement that, I doubt you'd be able to. I doubt there'd be any cloud storage, but it would be a funny little thing there for sure.
I honestly don't even do that. Just have a running feed. Force someone to, OBS it every.
I don't think they exist anymore. But one of the since we're talking Cartoon Network here real briefly, Adult Swim live streams on the Roku app used to be insanely good.
Yeah.
It was a lot of live web shows, and a lot of them very funny, and a lot of them very off the wall. And they were live. A lot of them had call-in phone numbers.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's where Too Many Cooks came from as well. Was that?
It might have been. Or somebody, or the guy behind it was one of the people behind one of the shows on there. But there was a lot of really cool stuff, like Fish. I think Fish Tank Live was probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
There was that, The Perfect Women. There was a lot of really good stuff on those Adult Swim live streams on the Roku app. I used to that actually was one of the things that got me through COVID. Quite frankly, was watching that random shit. But at any rate, that's our show tonight. Really appreciate you watching. As always, went a little into Sleepless OT, but it's all good. I think we had a fantastic show to justify it. Next week, there was nothing on the calendar. I'm informing you guys right now. Next week is Borderlands. Next week is Eli Roth's Guardians of the Galaxy. And I have two video gamers here on the show that are going to provide context into why this movie is probably not great, but we will reserve our judgment for next week on the show. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening. It is Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. We will see you next week, same time, same place on Sleepless with Steve.
live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.